Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
And so today we are reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 9, verses 19 to whenever the purport is, which I can't remember which is now. Okay. Because there are a lot of verses that don't have purports, we'll start with the first verse, even though it doesn't have a purport. It's okay. Oops. Okay. Ekaika shakati upashaka sata sata.
Ekaika shakati upashaka sata sata.
Ekaika shakata upashaka sata sata.
Ekaika shakati upashaka sata sata.
Ich glaube, es ist Shata, oder? Ja, Shata. Yeta upajila shakai ke gani bekata.
Yata upajila shakai gani bekata.
Yata upajila shakai gani bekata.
Yata upajila shakai gani bekata.
Ekaika shakata upashaka sata sata.
Ekaika shakati upashaka sata sata.
Yata upajile shakake gani bekata.
Yata upajila shakati gani bekata.
Kalini, willst du chanten? Willst du den Vers chanten?
Ekaika shakati upashaka sata sata.
Ekaika shakati upashaka sata sata.
Yata upajila shakati gani bekata.
Ekaika, each branch. Shakati, in the branch. Upashaka, sub-branches. Shata, hundreds and hundreds. Yata, all. Upajila, grew. Shaka, branches. He, who. Ganibe, can count. Kata, how much? Okay. Translation. And later purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. From each branch grew many hundreds of sub-branches. No one can count how many branches thus grew. Okay, verse 20. I'm not going to do Bengali. I shall try to name the foremost of the innumerable branches. Please hear the description of the Chaitanya tree. 21. At the top of the tree, the trunk branched into two. One trunk was named Shri Advaita Prabhu and the other Shri Nityananda Prabhu. Verse 22. From these two trunks grew many branches and sub-branches that covered the entire world. These branches and sub-branches and their sub-branches became so numerous that no one can actually write about them. Thus, the disciples and the grand disciples and their admirers spread throughout the entire world, and it is not possible to enumerate them all. In 25, here's the purport. Okay, so 25, I'll do the Bengali. Udambara vriksha yena pali sarva ange eimata bhakti vrikshe sarvatra phala lage. As a big fig tree, as a big fig tree bears fruits all over its body, each part of the tree of devotional service bore fruit. Purport. This tree of devotional service is not of this material world. It grows in the spiritual world, where there is no distinction between one part of the body and another. It is sometimes like a tree of sugar. For whichever part of such a tree one tastes, it is always sweet. The tree of bhakti has varieties of branches, leaves, and fruits, but they are all meant for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are 9 different processes of devotional service: Shravana, Kirtanam, Vishnu Shmaranam, Parasevanam, Archanam, Atmanivedanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. But all of them are meant only for the service of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, whether one hears, chants, remembers, or worships, these activities will yield the same result. Which one of these processes will be the most suitable for a particular devotee depends on his taste. Om Agyanatmanandasya Gunajana Shlakaya Chakshurvaitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Shtapitam Naratari Swayam Rupa Garamayam Darati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagamurukamatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sadhana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavandhu Jagratpati Gopesha Gopeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostati Tapta Kanchana Gauranga Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Paramani Haripriya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa-sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I forgot to ask for blessings from Vyasadev. So again, I'll read verse 25 again. As a big fig tree bears fruits all over its body, each part of the tree of devotional service bore fruit. Again the purport. This tree of devotional service is not of this material world. It grows in the spiritual world, where there is no distinction between one part of the body and another. It is something like a tree of sugar, for whichever part of such a tree one tastes, it is always sweet. The tree of bhakti has varieties of branches, leaves and fruits, but they are all meant for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are 9 different processes of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. But all of them are meant only for the service of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, whichever one hears, whether one hears, chants, remembers, or worships, his activities will yield the same result. Which one of these processes will be most suitable for a particular devotee depends on his taste. So, it is said in the Bhagavatam that we know this of the deity also, of Krishna, that he can eat with any part of his body. He can eat with his eyes, he can see with his hands, he can hear with his nose, whatever. It doesn't matter. His senses are exchangeable. And for us, that's not true. We can't see with our hands. I think there are some medical conditions that your brain may think that it can hear with your eyes. There's some, the brain is very complex and many different things can go wrong, but we can only see with our eyes, we can hear with our ears, we can touch with our hands, we can taste with our tongue, and so forth. But Krishna can do everything with every part of his body. And the decree of devotional service is the same. Whichever branch you pick is sweet. Okay, so if you have a fruit, it doesn't matter where you bite into the fruit, you're going to get the taste of the fruit. So, so Prabhupada, from verse 19 is, I read up until verse, I don't know what, but this chapter is 54 verses long, and there are some long purports in here, so I'm not going to read the full chapter. For instance, verse 41 has a very long purport, but the whole description, this is the whole description of the devotional tree. And it is kind of important because one of the main lessons that we have to learn as devotees is to become non-sectarian, is to give up this idea of I am the body, but not just I am the physical body, but I am also my subtle body, I am also everything that goes with it. And it is interesting if you, I just recently, like on that 18th of March, was my 8-year anniversary in Germany. That's the day I landed here. And it is interesting that if you go to live in another country where you immigrate to and you give up your old country and your new country is now your home, it's you can sense a little bit of it when you go on a holiday, but it's not so bad because in a holiday you know that you're going to go home. So there's a different way of seeing things. But if you live in another country, there's a mental shift that happens, that you leave. I left South Africa. I don't know, Prabhu, do you live here or are you just here for holiday or do you stay?
I live here since 4.5 years.
Yeah, okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
so you either give up your country, India, Russia, Ukraine, South Africa, whatever, and now there's already a mental shift knowing that, okay, this is the end of a chapter, I'm going to another country. And then you get to another country, and for me it was, you start realizing how deep the cultural understanding goes that you grew up with. You grow up with a particular set of values and cultures, and you know how the people think, and in your home country you don't have to think about it because everybody sort of has the same understanding. But if you are confronted with people who grew up differently, who think differently, then the idea of I'm South African and you are German becomes even more, even stronger. So it's not so bad anymore, but like psychologically, any of you on the internet or anywhere who thinks of going to a country, the first year is only survival. The first year is just kind of surviving. The second year you try and survive better. After 5 years you sort of feel, okay, now I got things, I got things, I can do things. And also it's very humbling, because you know that you're not a stupid person, you know that you have brains and that you're intelligent, but sometimes the subtlety of the culture is so fine. Many times in my life before, I've thought, I'm not stupid, why can't I do this? You feel like a small child. Like I didn't, in South Africa, the public transport system is next to non-existent. There are trains and there are buses, but they're very dangerous and they don't work and whatever. So I didn't grow up with the trams and the S-Bahn and whatever. So in the beginning I couldn't even see the signs. Like I didn't know what to look for. So and then when you get confronted with something so everyday, it's kind of humbling to the ego, that because you feel like a small child, no? It's, you know, and not to speak if you have of the language. So the point is that we are in a body as souls, and we have this body. This is our vehicle. This is what we get. Where do you come from?
From the south, from Bangalore.
Bangalore?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never been there. That's still on my bucket list. But okay, so you come from Bangalore. You come from, where were you born?
This one. It was a Mecklenburg.
Mecklenburg.
North Germany.
Yes,
North East
yes.
Germany.
You're East German, and I come from. Well, I was born in Pretoria, but I grew up in the very small towns in South Africa. So I'm a country girl from South Africa, and with it comes certain cultural values. It comes with certain things that you believe, certain things that you think, and that's okay, because that is the package that you get in this life, depending on what you did in your previous life. So, and just look at how wonderful the devotional tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has spread. That someone from South Africa, that's on the southern, like most southern part, not most southern, but apart from Australia and some of the other stuff, you can't get more southern than that. I mean, it's the southern tip of Africa. And someone from India and someone from from East Germany. And somehow, spiritually, we all end up in the same room, trying to follow the same things. But even that, devotional service I mean, I can vividly remember when I got to know the devotees. I got to know them through yoga. My brother dragged me to a yoga class, but he had ulterior motives, because he knew they were devotees, so he wanted to introduce me to the devotees, but he didn't want to tell me about the devotees, so we went to a yoga class. Anyway, long story short, a year later, I think it was about a year later, that a few things happened in my life, and I realized that, okay, so spiritually I was at a point where I didn't know what. So then by that time I knew the devotees, and I said, okay, this is the process I have right now. I grew up a Christian, I was a happy Christian, I never asked questions. I was happy with my Christianity. Whenever I was confronted with the sentence of only through Jesus you can come to heaven, I thought, no, God will sort it out. He'll take care of everybody. So I ended up at a Rath Yatra in Durban on Easter weekend, because that's the Easter weekend is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So in Durban it's a 4-day festival on Easter, one of the biggest Christian holidays that you can have. And I voluntarily went, but during the festival I was confronted again with the cultural difference, because Rath Yatra is quite different from anything else that we have experienced. Anyway, the point is that this is not, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks about the devotional tree, he sort of also talks about that, because devotional service can be done by anyone, but depending on where you are in the world, the outside dress is going to look a little different. So Ram Navami is coming up, Ram Navami. It's on Friday, and the Ramayana is told all over the world. Like there's a version of the Ramayana from Bali, there's a version of the Ramayana from Tulsidas, I think it was from the south, no? Yeah. And then there's the Valmiki Ramayana, and then there's the Ramayana, and the story of the Ramayana is told in many different cultures, and with it comes different pictures and whatever. So what I'm trying to say is that yes, we have an outside dress, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking about the inside, about the spiritual significance of devotional service, and that is apart from the outside dress. So sometimes as devotees, because we are so captured in our bodies, we sometimes still make the distinction between devotees and karmis, Vaishnavas and non-Vaishnavas. We make the distinction of kirtan is better than lecture, or book distribution is better than prasadam distribution, or whatever. There is unfortunately still this subtle thing of some things are better. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says no, that's not it. So whether you like deity worship, or book distribution, or praying, or reading, or serving at the Sunday feast, doesn't matter. The result is, the point is, I am using me, my body, my mind, everything that I have to serve Krishna, and the results is the same. There are more direct ways. Outwardly, there are more direct ways, like book distribution or deity worship. You can't get any more direct than being on the altar. But the devotee, the Vaishnava, has to learn that Krishna is everywhere, So that's the other lesson that we learn, and that's sort of for the Grihasthas. That's the main lesson to learn, is that because we don't get to live in a temple, and we don't we don't get to live in a temple, so it's a little bit more effort to come to the temple, and also we have work. I mean, if you're a student, you have to study. If you're married, you have to have a job. You have to earn money. You have to keep a house and whatever. And the trick is then to see Krishna in everything. So wherever you are, you have to develop the understanding that whatever it is I'm doing, wherever I'm doing it for Krishna. Whether you are in the temple, or a Grihastha, or a Vanaprastha, or a sannyasi, so, but the mentality should always be, whatever I'm doing for Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so merciful, he says, wherever your branch is on the tree, because we are all branches on the tree, wherever your branch is on the tree, wherever you try to dock onto the tree, it's going to be the same. Like the roots are the same. So the energy that comes from the roots is the same energy that goes to every branch. So it's not that the trunk gets a different kind of energy and the little branch up top gets something else. No, it's the same energy that goes throughout. So devotional service is eternal, and according to our bodies that we have, we may have different they may have different flavors. So some people may feel that kirtan is better, or they like kirtan more. Some people like giving lectures. Some people like going on book distribution. Some people like to cook. Some people like to do whatever. It doesn't matter. The result is the same. For Krishna, the result is the same. For us, we may think that the result is not the same. That we may think that archanam, the deity worship, is better than cooking prasad in the kitchen. No, Krishna sees everything. To illustrate this again from the Ramayana, when Ramachandra and his monkey followers came to the ocean and they wanted to build a bridge to Lanka, they said, okay, the ocean deity said, yes, okay, I'll make whatever you put in the water, I'll make it float if you write the name Ram on it. So trees and stumps and rocks and whatever, they had to write Ram on it, and then it floated. So then you had the Vanaras. They were born of demigods, so they had superpowers. They were the superheroes of that time. And Hanuman could, so you had Hanuman who could bring mountain tops. So Hanuman could bring mountain tops, but then you had a little squirrel. In some versions it's a squirrel, in some versions it's a spider. I like the one with the squirrel, because the squirrel, he couldn't lift mountain tops, and he couldn't much lift pebbles, but he kind of rolled in the dust, and then he went to each of the cracks and he kind of shook himself, and that kind of filled the cracks. And at one stage, Hanuman said to the squirrel, "Get out of my way, I'm building here." And Ram said, "No, Hanuman, you're Hanuman, but this squirrel is doing 100% of what he can do. In a squirrel body, you cannot do what Hanuman can do. Hanuman can lift rocks, he can lift mountains, but the squirrel can't. But it doesn't mean that just because the squirrel cannot lift a mountain, that the little dust particles mean nothing. No, the little dust particles were very important because mixed with the water and whatever, it became like cement, so it kind of stuck everything together. So the point is that we are all individual branches of the spiritual tree, the devotional tree. The core of what we do is we try to serve Krishna with what we have, and our bodies are all different, our minds are all different, our emotions, our mentality, our cultures are all different, but that's what Krishna likes. He likes variety. He doesn't want everybody to do the same. That's boring. So the point is just that in our hearts we have to do our best. And today, these days, like the current age is very difficult because it has become very easy to compare ourselves with others, like social media. And I mean, social media is such a lie because everybody makes everything look perfectly on social media, but it's not. So we not only compare ourselves to other people, we compare ourselves to what we think other people are like, and not even to the real person. But the only comparison that we should make is with ourselves. So in devotional service, Prabhupada says that the bhakti is simultaneously the goal and the way. It's the journey and the goal at the same time. So when we are on a journey, the only comparison that we should make, we shouldn't look at other branches. We should look at other branches in the sense that, oh, I want to also do that, meaning to get inspiration, but not to think of, oh, I'm not so good, this is better, this is worse. We should compare ourselves to earlier versions of ourselves. Okay, so if I compare myself to when I 10 years ago, then hopefully I would say that I've made some advancement. Shishi Radhamanamon ki jai, Shishi Govintai ki jai. So, and not again in the sense that we should become proud of our advancement, but that should be, that we should just think is, am I at least trying to be better? I once read, just a few weeks ago somewhere, I think I read it on Facebook, but I can't remember the exact words. This person said that if we stop striving for perfection and rather strive for progress, then our lives will change. Because sometimes we try and do something perfectly, or we don't do something because because we want to do it perfectly from the beginning, but that doesn't work. So in the end, if you start doing something, devotional service or anything in devotional service or anything in your life, the point is that by the end of the day we should be a little further than we were yesterday. Right? So whatever we do, we should try and be a little better, progress, and not perfection. You're far away from perfection, but if you can do something a little better than what you did yesterday, then that's it. So that's the only comparison that we should get, is, am I getting better? And obviously sometimes we can't tell for ourselves when we are getting better. that's why we have Guru, Sadhu and Sastra. We have people from outside, our friends, our families, people that we trust, that can tell us, okay, don't worry. You may not see it, but I see it. You're much better than what you were 5 years ago or whatever. So, just to summarize, the devotional tree is a tree of variety. Wherever, but the root is the same. The root is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the root is Krishna consciousness, the root is I want to serve Krishna, I want to make Krishna happy. And wherever your branch is on the tree, that's fine. As long as it's on the tree and not cut off. So, whatever it is you do, Krishna gave you a vehicle and tools to do it with, and the point is just to use whatever he gave you to the best of your ability. And then you can draw inspiration from other devotees, and not in the sense that we should become jealous of them because they're so good, but to be happy and to get inspiration from them in order to do what we do better. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I have to say about it. Does anybody have any thoughts or any questions? Yes, Paul.
Yeah, so Mataji, whatever you said deeply resonated with me because we went through the same things and we saw the same things, but at this phase of my life, my biggest challenge is to implement all these things consciously, and that's not happening. I find it very hard. You're constantly bombarded with all this external information and uncertainty, and also the internal deficits. I find it really hard to consciously implement everything that you said because it's the same kind of conclusions I've come down to, but implementation is almost impossible for me.
Implementation of what? Give me an example.
For instance, not to compare yourself with the world, but with yourself in the past, and also be conscious about things like that you gotta give your 100% no matter how much you can. Like squirrel example, and but still I am. It's easy to know all these things, but really set it.
I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying it's easy to do it. I can't do it. I still compare myself with others. I still. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. It's a progress. At least you're conscious of it, and at least you're trying. Some people aren't even conscious of it, right? So at least the fact that you're in this class. One terrifying moment, I thought it was snowing. Anyway, at least, you're already in this class, you're already listening to this lecture, so it's already a step forward. And, tips on how to do it, and here I'm talking to myself, is, okay, so you said that you want to implement it, meaning that you want to compare yourself to yourself and not to others. One underrated thing that we could do is write about it. Just keep a journal. People think, keep a journal, I don't have time. But if you consciously, logically write down, okay, what happened today? What did I do that I want to do better in the future? Maybe something happened, you got angry, or something happened and you're kind of disappointed with yourself. Then, okay, why am I disappointed? And how am I going to try and do it better? The act of writing, and I'm not saying type, I'm saying writing with your hand and a pen and a physical piece of paper, is that your brain and your hand is connected. So it's, and you're putting it outside of your body. It means that you're objectively looking at something. So, and it becomes easier to deal with it because it's not all these crazy emotions also in it. So sometimes by writing about things, it's like an affirmation. So your brain, you train your brain to think that way. So the next time you get into the same situation, because you wrote it down and because you thought about it, it's going to, you maybe not, say for instance you get angry a lot. Next time, it may take a little bit longer for you to get angry. You still get angry because you're not perfect, but in a few years, maybe you don't get angry anymore. You know? So that's the other thing, is that Krishna consciousness has such high ideals. The goal, the ideal is so high that, and we try and skip steps. We try and get to the goal immediately instead of just thinking, okay, there's the goal, here is where I am, this is how much I have to work on it. You can't jump. Hanuman can jump. The squirrel can't jump. So that's what I said about progress, is at the end of the day, you just have to feel, okay, I'm better. I may not be perfect, but I'm better. And spending time with people that are already a little bit further down the road than you are is also inspiring, because people rub off on each other, whether good or bad. So if you spend time with people that you find inspiring, if you see someone that is not so attached to worldly things, and you think, oh, I'm so attached to everything around me, and you spend time with him, then sort of it dissolves a little bit of your attachment. So that's why devotee association is so important. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says that. He says devotee association is extremely important because we are Kali Yuga inhabitants, we are prisoners of Kali Yuga, which means that the momentum of our previous karma is so strong that just by willpower alone we can't do it. That's why we need support. There's, just to end off, there are these redwood trees in America that are enormous. Like, they are, I haven't seen them, but I've seen pictures of them. You see a tiny human being that looks like this tiny in front of this big tree. Like, they are very old and very big, hundreds of meters high. Or, well, maybe not 100, but anyway, big. The point is that they are very old, hundreds of years old, but interestingly enough, they don't have a really big root system. Most trees go very big, very deep down, but these redwood trees, they don't have, the root system is very shallow. So the question was then, how do they stay upright? I don't know. If you have a shallow root system, you can be blown over by wind, whatever. And also the higher the tree, the more the wind. So the question was, and they sort of, I don't know how they did it, but they found out that these redwood trees, they don't go down, they go sideways. So they help each other stay upright. So the roots of this tree is interlocked with the roots of the trees next to it, meaning that they can't go anywhere because they keep each other in place. And that is what devotee association is like. Yes, we have to go deep, but we need the support of others to deal with us. So it's maybe not an answer, but the more association you have with people who you see have the qualities that you want, the more you'll get them. And also don't be so hard on yourself. Just every day, one step. And I mean that's what I'm not saying it's maybe a bad example, but that's what addicts, anybody who struggles with addiction, they first have to realize that I cannot do this by my own. That it's part of the 12-step program. That first of all you have to acknowledge a higher power, like a God, and it may be God, it may be Krishna, it may be Allah, but you have to acknowledge your dependence on a divine being, person, and then you also have to learn to ask for help. So that's what we have to do. So we are busy with the Transcendental 12-step program, and we have to realize our dependence on Krishna, and to get back to the tree. The branches are absolutely worthless if they are not connected to the trunk of the tree. You can, if you pluck a branch, it will dry out. So we have to be connected to the tree of devotional service, and then everything else will be okay. Anything else? I think. Okay. Everybody happy? Yes.
Do you know the German name of this tree?
Tree?
Ja, the German name of this tree? The German name? Wie heißt der auf Deutsch, der Baum, diese Baumart, die du gesagt hast?
Achso, Redwood Tree. Keine Ahnung.
Nee,
Ich habe jetzt mein Handy nicht.
Nee, mach nicht.
Ich auch nicht.
Anna, möchtest du was sagen?
Ich hab einen Kommentar.
Ich schicke dir das. Ich habe heute ausnahmsweise mein Handy nicht dabei. Ja.
Ich wollte nur sagen, nie von euch, weil du hast so eine schöne Frage gefragt und ich glaube, jeder von uns kommt in diese Gedanken und in diese Herausforderung. Gebe ich alles? Ist das genug? Man vergleicht sich auch mit anderen Menschen. Und eigentlich, was ich habe von meinem Leben, von meinem spirituellen Leben verstanden, dass das ein Prozess ist. Und ein Prozess entsteht nicht von, oh, ich muss das und das in dieser Zeit schaffen, sondern ein Prozess ist etwas Natürliches, etwas Organisches, etwas, was auch Geduld gibt in uns. Weil über Nacht werden wir nicht unsere 100% geben. Und das ist okay. Es ist nicht falsch, dass wir nicht, dass wir höhere Erwartungen haben und dass wir das schaffen. Wir sind einfach, wo wir sind. Und das ist ganz okay. Das ist nichts Schlimmes. Und so viel wir geben, das ist auch okay. Natürlich, das heißt jetzt nicht in irgendwelcher Faulheit oder keine Ahnung, aber man muss selber eine normale menschliche Grenze für sich machen und gucken, wo man kommt und damit zufrieden sein und nicht neurotisch, weil man schafft nicht etwas, wo man überhaupt noch nicht ist. Ja. Weil wenn du jetzt einen Apfel siehst, die kleinen, ne? Aber du kannst Apfel als große, schöne, rote, aber du kannst nicht so kleinen Apfel sagen, wieso bist du jetzt nicht groß und rot und köstlich und es ist, es ist nicht normal. Ein Prozess ist notwendig im spirituellen Leben. Und das Prozess letztendlich ist auch, was wir brauchen, weil über das kann wir so nicht.
It makes me think of what you said now. It makes me think of someone. There's a devotee called Prabhu. I met him in Leipzig. He said that the point of devotional service is to find a balance, because most people try and a lot of the older devotees, and I'm not saying it wasn't necessary. In the beginning of ISKCON, they had to make immense sacrifices to just get the movement going. But service is to do something that you can sustain, not to burn yourself out. Right? So whatever you do should be something that you can do every day for the rest of your life. Not burn myself, like do whatever and then fizzle out at some stage. So that's also part of the process. It's just steady. We, in this day and age, we underestimate the value of just doing steady devotional service, doing something every day, even if it is small. So yeah, it is a process, and sometimes your 100% is not the same. Sometimes your 100% is very little because your capacity is very little. If you're sick, then you cannot do the same as when you're healthy, right? So sometimes your 100% is also different. And
Yeah, and just to not mix this steady means also like a plane. You know that focus is to go in one way, but he's going like this because of winds, because of many things. So we are also going like this, and that's not steady. That's the way we can do it. That's the way it's working. So if we are sometimes from the winds or our mind or whatever, it's pulling us left and right. Let's don't become disappointed, or it's okay.
Life, the process.
The process is there. If you want to have a goal and it's in normal way going to the goal, it's no problem.
it's like a ship on the ocean. Olden days they used the stars, so the North Star, the whatever, and that's the value of having a spiritual master also, or having a goal. You know what your goal is, and it's like the star. You see the star, you know that's the direction that you're going to, and like she said, the left and right and up and down, it's part of the process, but sort of devotional service, and also if you commit to a process, it sort of keeps you on track. It may be a little bit this way, it may be a little bit that way, but at least you're not completely off track. You sort of know, okay, that's the star, that's where I'm going, and how you get there looks a little bit different for everybody, but it sort of keeps you so that you don't go off on you always come back. So that's also what Karamakanana Swami said, is he's just, that's what I meant with steadiness, is if you commit to a process and you do your devotional service and you do your sadhana, then you can't go off too much. I mean, life throws all sorts of stuff at us and we have to deal with it, but if you keep to the principles that Prabhupada gives us, then you stay on track, and then then it's okay. Then as long as you stay on track and make progress, and then eventually you will reach the perfection, because that's what Krishna wants us to do. Is the perfection is that we realize we're souls and we want to serve Krishna and we don't want to be here anymore.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
So now actually exchanging here, it's even necessary. It's very necessary, like someone who's painting, some artist. If he's painting, the whole time staying very near, he has to go a little bit back in distance to see complete, like the whole being. And this is also spiritual life. It's very necessary to have this stopping, digesting, thinking, how to say, exploring on the way, whatever is coming is necessary for sometimes for yourself. I don't say to do nothing or whatever, but to just take a time and to digest what, like we have a knowledge, but actually we need realized knowledge, because this is Vijnana. Knowledge alone is not enough. So if we have this time to just sometimes step and to realize, then we will have much more power to be vulnerable for everything that is coming more, and it's coming always more.
And that's again what I said is why writing is so important. I mean, if you every day you can do it in small bits, like taking stock. In English we say taking stock is also quasi auf Deutsch Inventar von dem Tag zu nehmen. What did you do? What did you experience? What do you think about it? So you can do it in small bits every day or every week or whatever, and that also helps. I find, I mean, I should be writing every day, but I find that when I write, I'm like, okay, not so bad, not so, it helps. All right. Bas? Okay, thank you very much for your attendance, for your patience, for your tolerance, for everything. Grantara Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai, Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nanchakopaturubhyascha.